Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. It's Niall, and I'm delighted as always to be joined by our man stateside, Thomas. And we're here to kind of evaluate, of course, we're on the back of last night, the WBC lightweight champion, Shakur Stevenson, retaining his title in a very, very easy as predicted, but underwhelming decision win against Artem Hartunian. If I'm pronouncing that right, I hope I am. Yeah, as I say, he done as expected, and he widely outpointed Hartunian to maintain his unbeaten record and retain his title. So we're here to look ahead and basically kind of evaluate where Shakur Stevenson stands in a really exciting lightweight division at the minute. Is he number one? You know, the consensus will be, Thomas, that the top three will be Shakur Stevenson, Gervonta, Tank Davis, or Vasiliy Lomachenko, whatever order you might have that in. But what we're here to do today is kind of discuss how Shakur Stevenson would do against either of them names if they are next. Hopefully they are next. As boxing fans, we want to see them fight each other. The best fighting the best, what it's always about. So yeah, let's jump straight into it. Let's just start, I suppose, with Gervonta Davis. Would you see Shakur Stevenson beating Gervonta Davis, or how does that play out? You know, it's a fascinating style matchup with the power against the boxing IQ. So, if Stevenson versus Davis was to happen, how would you see that one going?
Yeah, I agree. It's a hell of a matchup. It's a great style matchup. Um, Me personally, I know that Shakur hasn't really looked too great recently in his last few fights, but he's still winning and is still winning a rather lopsided fashion. So, um, I, I honestly, I might favor him to beat Gervonta. I think Shakur, even though he hasn't looked good, I think he's just one of those guys. He needs somebody. He needs a big name in there with him, so that way people can really see what he's capable of. Otherwise, if he fights guys like he did last night, it's just going to be a lot of the same kind of lackluster 12 round decision performances. So I would love to see that fight. Um, I think it's just a matter of whether or not it happens. I just think that these last few performances from Shakur hasn't really helped. You know, I mean, he didn't on the one hand he didn't look great, so maybe people want to fight him because of that. But really, I think more so people don't want to fight him because he probably just doesn't bring a lot to the table, and they probably would lose to him. So, yeah. Anyway, I would favor Shakur to win that one.
Yeah, interesting. And to be honest with you, I'd have to totally agree with you. We were just speaking off camera there briefly, and it is a really weird one, and that he's winning these fights widely. You know, he is a supremely talented fighter, but he's losing fans seemingly by the fight by fight, with how kind of underwhelming he has looked. So it's a hard one. Like on one hand, he's doing what's expected and he's winning comfortably, but on the other hand, you know, people are not going to be queuing up to watch him as opposed to the likes of a Lomachenko who can be tactical but entertaining at the same time, and of course Gervonta Davis, who was just explosive and exciting. But yeah, in terms of the Gervonta Davis versus Shakur Stevenson fight, you know what you touch on there, I think is kind of an interesting one with this is in that the style of opponent I think could make Shakur Stevenson shine here. You know, Gervonta Davis is going to be ultra aggressive. He's going to come for the knockout, and that could play right into Shakur Stevenson's hands. You know, with his boxing ability, and it could make him look outstanding. To be honest with you, it could be the perfect kind of recipe for him to put on a bit of a clinic. You know, it might sound like I'm kind of um doing a disservice to Gervonta Davis saying Shakur Stevenson and put a clinic on, but you know Davis is quality, but Shakur Stevenson is an elite talent as well. So I think the styles would gel really well there. I would go for a Shakur Stevenson decision win. One thing on that impressed me hugely with Gervonta Davis the last time out is, and I suppose through his career, is that against Frank Martin the last time out when he was getting outboxed for kind of large stages of that, how composed he remained, while he was getting outboxed. He just knew it's almost like he said to himself, you can outscore me, outbox me all you want. I will get to you eventually with this power. And of course he did, but the question will be, would he be able to kind of break down Shakur Stevenson as easily, as kind of as well as he did against Frank Martin? Who knows? I just think Shakur Stevenson's operating on a whole other level. I really do, to the likes of Frank Martin. So I think, as I said at the start, I think the style of Gervonta Davis would make Shakur Stevenson kind of put on a performance of a lifetime and kind of widely outbox him in the end to a decision. But that's no discredit to Gervonta Davis. But I think the style matchup would be fascinating there. It really would. So yeah, we're both going for Shakur Stevenson on that one. So let's move on to the next one. The IBF champion, the newly crowned IBF champion again, Vasil Lomachenko. A lot of people wrote him off, Thomas, to be honest, after the Devin Haney fights and of course his age, the length of his career, but he looked outstanding against Kambosos. He proved a lot of people wrong there. I know Kambosos is no Shakur Stevenson, he's really not, but a different style to Gervonta Davis, of course. So how would you see Shakur Stevenson versus Vasil Lomachenko play out if it was to happen?
Oh yeah, another very interesting style matchup. It's definitely not really quite the like the cut and dry boxer versus puncher matchup that Shakur versus Tank would be. But it's still very interesting to me. Not as interesting just because, Loma is 36 going on 37. So yeah, despite the fact that he's looking good, he is getting towards the tail end of his career. So um, I just obviously people would people would agree that Shakur is just the fresher guy and he just has the advantages in pretty much everything except experience, perhaps. So yeah, I would pick him to win. Um, Pretty decisive by
Again,
decision.
yeah, again, I'd have to totally agree with you. As I mentioned before, Lomachenko proved a lot of people wrong last time out against Kambosos, but it's a totally different level fighting somebody like Shakur Stevenson. It really is. And as you said yourself, whereas Davis versus Stevenson, it'd be like almost Matador versus Bull. This would be a much more kind of tactical chess match. It might not be as exciting, I suppose, a more casual audience, but it'd be so technically brilliant from both of them. It really would. But when it comes down to it, I just have to think again what you said. Youth, freshness has to play a big factor here, with the two of them. So I do think it would be a close fight. I really do. I just think Lomachenko is that brilliant, even at this age, that he can still, give guys like Stevenson and what we've seen with Devin Haney, he can still give them absolute hell and nightmares. But I think Shakur Stevenson, for me, I know this might be another video, but we're both saying he beats both Davis and Lomachenko, and I do think he's heading right to the top of the boxing ladder. I really do. He has youth. On his side, he has skill on his side, and as boring as he is, to use that word, I know it sounds harsh, as kind of underwhelming as he has been lately, he's a supreme talent. So I do think he beat Vasily Lomachenko as well. I really do. I think he's the number one lightweight in the world. I know he needs the names to prove it. So just to wrap up quickly before we go, we're going for a Stevenson win on both counts there against Davis and Lomachenko. If you had to pick for a fight to happen next for Shakur Stevenson, which one of those names would it be? Would it be Davis or Lomachenko that you'd want?
Um, I would rather see Shakur fight Gervonta. I just think both guys are Gervonta is like in his prime, and Shakur is like right below that. So, um, two young, fresh fighters. I would much rather see that matchup, but I'd be very happy seeing Shakur versus Lomachenko.
Yeah, again, I have to agree. I have to agree with what you said. If I had to choose, stylistically, just as we mentioned in this video, I'd love to see Shakur Stevenson fight Tank Davis. That Matador versus Bull style. How could Stevenson negate him? Could the power of Davis break him down eventually? It'd be so fascinating. But hopefully, it's either one of those next for Shakur, or maybe even Tank versus Lomachenko. Who knows? But that's for another day. Anyway, yeah, that's all we have time for on this one. Just discussing what could be next for Shakur Stevenson and how would he fare against the likes of a Tank Davis or Vasiliy Lomachenko. So let us know what you think in the comments. Do you agree with myself and Thomas? Would he beat both? Would he stake his claim as the king of the lightweight division? Let us know what you think. And as always, don't forget, drop us a like on the YouTube video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and follow us on all social media. And of course, don't forget we're on Spotify now. We're back on Spotify, so give us a download on that. You can get all our reviews, previews, interviews, predictions, all that good stuff. So yeah, that's another platform to keep an eye on. But yeah, Thomas, that was a pleasure, and speak again soon.
Thank you very much, my man.